Good weekend, everyone. I hope you're all doing fantabulous this week and are enjoying your minting adventures in LA and in the metaverse. John Henry here, SSFTG. Welcome to This Week in Review on Upland, where we take a bit of time to discuss what's going on in the Upland metaverse from an analytical perspective. Now, make sure to stick around, too, to see how your favorite city is doing when we break each sector down in our zone-by-zone analysis. How healthy is the UPX economy? How is each market sector performing? Which is the best deal and which is the worst? All of the important information that many folks overlook that can be the difference between success and failure. Especially when we're all getting wrapped up in new city releases, a lot of the other sectors can kind of glide under the radar. I'm also going to be covering what I'm doing personally in the Upland metaverse and what I've been up to. And I will be talking a little bit later in the week on, I think it's Monday or Tuesday, whenever the video launches, going over how I approached the LA launch and live video coverage and clips and all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure to stick around for those too. And speaking of which, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss when those videos come out. And on top of that, we're launching new content and strategies all the time, so that way you can stay on top of your game. If you aren't in Upland yet making those towering stacks, we've got North LA launching right on the heels of Southern LA, and boy is it an amazing time to get into the game. Click the referral link in the description to get you started in Upland with some starter UPX, and if you decide to invest some cash, you get a massive 50% bonus up to 50,000 UPX on your first UPX purchase. Careful though, because you only get that bonus if you use the link to register, and you don't want to miss out on some easy UPX perks by not using a link. So let's take a look at what's going on in the Upland metaverse, shall we? Of course, on the 26th, we had the LA stress test with Montecito Heights. Overall, like I said, I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later in the week, but it went really well. The stress test on the 26th, it had a couple hiccups here and there, but I mean, man, if we were to put it on a ranking system out of 10, it would easily be a 7 or an 8. It was a really, really solid launch on the 26th. Then on the 27th, we had the stress test first, which kicked off in Mount Washington, and then we moved into the second portion of the stress test on the 27th, which was slotted to be Harbor City and Fairfax together in unison, but they did separate them after a little bit of a pause, starting first with Harbor City and then going into Fairfax. And then once that was done, after a little bit of a pause, there was the full release of Southern LA. Then over to our news announcements on the 28th, we had the announcement for the LA Stadium project. The LA Stadium project is a really cool project that they're doing after the ludicrously successful launch of Los Angeles. We'll get into the numbers in a minute there from the analytics perspective. And we also have the big game on the horizon. They're looking for fellow Uplanders to contribute some of their spark to help build the stadium in time for the football championship. All players who will be eligible to win the exclusive LA Stadium Block Explorer, as well as one Spark. That's, well, if you stake. So if you stake and you help them out, you have a chance to win some serious rewards. Players can begin staking Spark today, and drawings will take place intermittently over the next several days. It's just so that we're on the same page, it gives you this address to hunt for. It's very difficult to find, but we'll get into that in a second. Some of the things to keep in mind here: this is the address, and the minimum stake amount is 0.1 Spark. Now, if I jump over into the game here, the easiest way to find it is to search for SoFi Stadium, and that will bring you right here to the 1001 Stadium Drive in Inglewood, California. And you'll notice that they are building the project right now. Actually, one of my apartment buildings is right over there. But we can see that if we click on this, you're going to run into something. It's saying updating construction. Every time someone adds their Spark to the construction, it takes another 2 or 3 minutes to settle on the blockchain before you can do it again. So a lot of people are being met with a little bit of frustration here in trying to stake their Spark, but the last time that I saw someone post a screenshot of it, it's about 13 days left. So there's still plenty of time to get your Spark in there if you're looking to get in for this building. So let's shift over into the 30-day market analytics and all of that fun stuff. Looking at the market analytics from the previous week, if we look at the previous week, which I believe I've got the video up right here, yeah, the previous week was 6.384. Now, if we look at where we are this time around in the market analytics, we are at 6.9, and this is after the LA launch. Now, first off, really obviously, we can see that there is a drastic increase in transactional volume on the UPX side of things after the LA launch. You remember we were talking about last week on how there was about a 65%, 70% drop from the top here in terms of overall transactional volume. When we're looking at the high, the peak was at 437.5 million. The trough down here, if I can get it on the low, is at 113.4 million. So, you know, about 75%, a little bit over. Big drop off of the top in terms of transactional volume. And actually the low, I'm sorry, was 112.6, the one before there. And then they went screaming all the way up to the highs on the release of Los Angeles, which is incredible for a couple reasons. First of all, the daily transactional volume was popped in at 469.4 million. But the other cool thing is that beat the previous record at 437. So we actually have an increase now, even after the Los Angeles launch, suggesting that there was more than just people who were waiting, you know, holding off, not doing anything until A, and then dumping into LA. That did take place, of course, obviously, but there's also a lot of new money that's pouring in because we're already at fresh highs and we haven't even launched North LA yet. What really brings this context to the limelight here is the daily trading volume. The daily trading volume, I think, really gives us a suggestion here because in terms of the daily transaction volume, we did make a new high, but the daily trading volume did not make a new high. There's a couple reasons for this. First of all, the daily trading volume, I mean, let's be real here. If you were minting anything in Los Angeles on the southern portion, some of the minting prices were astronomically high, incredibly high. If you were minting anything in Hollywood, I mean, you're out like 60, 70, 100,000 easy just for small little properties. I spent over 100,000 on a property on Santa Monica Boulevard. It's ridiculous. So the pricing is incredibly expensive. The returns on them are expected to be incredibly good too. But there are a few caveats to that, right? Because of the properties being so expensive, there's a lot less trading volume taking place. The number of trades taking place, 13,862 at the peak, whereas before the launch we had that at 19,495. So there's a little bit of a delineation here because of the land values that we're getting kind of hit with. Now, with North LA around the corner, there's a lot of speculation that North LA is going to bring to the table a lot of the cheaper properties because we don't have like Hollywood and all of that. Yes, there are big places in I mean, don't get me wrong, there's big spots in North LA, but there's also a lot of potential for smaller, more residential properties that generally are on the cheaper side of things, the 6,000, 7,000 range. All right, and then over to our sector by sector, starting off in Bakersfield and working our way down the alphabet. First off, as far as the global location stats go, there are 445,761 properties minted, 132,000 left unminted. That does not include unminted properties in Los Angeles. Those figures haven't come in yet, so unfortunately I can't add those to that list. But the minted properties, that does include LA. So just so that we're on the same page, I'm missing some of the unminted property values because they're just not showing up. But as far as Bakersfield is concerned, the previous UPX floor was at 11,777. The current UPX floor is at 9,876, which is down 16.14%. Quite a nice little pullback there in Bakersfield. Again, we know why, but the previous USD floor was at $10. The current USD floor is at $9.98, staying very, very stable. Seemingly like the UPX dip here is a very nice little buying opportunity in Bakersfield. Then we swing over on the East Coast, but again, following the alphabet down over on Bronx. Bronx has a previous UPX floor at 13,960, the current UPX floor at 12,222. That's down 12.45% from the previous week. The current USD floor is $11.49. The previous USD floor is $13.68, showing us a 16.01% decrease on the USD floor here in Bronx. Bronx seems like it's on quite a nice little dip here to possibly pick up there too. Then we shift gears over into Brooklyn, and on the Brooklyn side of things, the previous UPX floor is at 14,500. The current UPX floor is at 14,800. That's actually an increase of 2.07%. Another city launch? What city launch? We're going up on the UPX floor here in Brooklyn. The previous USD floor was $14.45. This one's a little bit different, though. The current USD floor is $12.70 with a 12.11% decrease on that front. Then we jump over into Chi-Town, good old Chicago, gotta love it. The previous UPX floor, $8,889. The current UPX floor at $7,999. Maybe not so much in love with that. That's down 10.01%. But a little bit of an oddball here. The previous USD floor is at $6.96. The current USD floor is at $7.40. Now, that is up 6.32%, which is fantastic, but the thing here is that the floor from the UPX to the USD is incredibly small. Normally, there's a larger margin of difference between there, you know, with like an $8 floor and a 10,000 UPX you know, the difference would be like 2,000 or 3,000 UPX. But here, there is a very, very small margin of difference between the USD floor and the UPX floor. In Cleveland, Ohio, we have the previous UPX floor sitting at $10,900. This one got dinged a little bit. Cleveland is not sitting very well. The current UPX floor is $8,800, down 19.27%. A beautiful dip opportunity, just as a side note there. Now, as far as the USD floor, that went from $9.40 to the current USD floor at $8, which is down about 14.89%. Cleveland overall, it didn't fare too well in the on the LA launch. They have quite the pullback going on over here. Fresno is finding a little bit of a balance, and that would make sense. We've got some of the metaventure shops over here. Fresno's going to maintain a little bit more because psychologically there's just more going on in Fresno. The previous UPX floor was at $11,900. The current UPX floor is at $11,500, down a marginal 3.36%. And on the USD side of things, $9.90 was the previous. The current USD floor is $10.98, which is up 10.91%. Very nice bump in the Fresno, California side on the USD end. In Kansas City, we're a little bit more level playing field with a flip-flop here, and another one that has an incredibly tight spread. The previous UPX floor was $10,446. The current floor is $9,990. That's a decrease of 4.37%. But then we look at the USD floor, and that spread is nuts. The previous USD floor was $9. The current USD floor is $9.47. That's an increase of 5.22%. And also a difference of about 500 UPX from the current floor UPX versus USD. Very tight spreads in Kansas City. Now, Kansas City is one of those locations that also has unminted properties still available. So if we look at the overall properties, last week we had 57,050 properties available. This week we've got 53,877. That suggests that even with LA launching this week and everything else going on, they were still able to mint about 5.5% more of the Kansas City properties, which is a nice little bump that they've got going on there. Manhattan, on the other end of things, is still, of course, remaining relatively stable. We did see the floor slide a little bit during, right around the LA launch, but it's already rebounded back up. If we're looking at the previous UPX floor, it was at $190,000. The current UPX floor is at $199,999. That's up 5.26%. But during the week, there were some pretty big dips on that UPX floor, down as low as $160,000. There were some pretty nice opportunities inside there. The previous USD floor was at $170. The current USD floor is $175. It's a modest casual gain of 2.94%, showing that Manhattan is still maintaining that really, really strong value flow. Nashville is up next on the docket. Another one of those unminted property sectors. We'll get into that in a second. The previous UPX floor is at $11,795. The current UPX floor is at $11,998. That is a very small gain, but a gain nonetheless compared to some of the others. We'll take it. That's up 1.72%. On the USD floor side of things, last time was $9. This time, it's also $9. There is no change on the USD floor side for Nashville. Now, again, this one does have unminted properties. Last week, there were 80,851 properties yet to be minted. This week, we've got 78,138. It's a little bit slower in the Nashville, Tennessee side of things with the minting rates and everything, but here still, even with LA looming, they were able to mint about 3.3% or so more properties in this area. New Orleans bringing a little bit of a pullback here with the previous UPX floor sitting at $10,999 and the current UPX floor at $10,250. It's a decrease of 6.81%, not a huge difference from that side of things. The previous USD floor was $9.99. The current USD floor is $9.80. That's a decrease of 1.9%, so we've got a little bit of a pullback in the New Orleans area, but still remaining relatively firm. Over on the Oakland, California side of things, we've got another pullback territory. Not really a big surprise. I mean, with Oakland being in California and Los Angeles happens to be in California as well, when they have a major city launching in a pre-existing state, well, you kind of expect the rest of those neighborhoods to get dinged a little bit while everybody sells out for profit. Now, looking at the Oakland, California pricing, the previous UPX floor is at $14,990, where the current UPX floor is at $13,000. That's down 13.28%, getting dinged a little bit on that end. On the previous USD floor at $12, the current USD floor at $9.98. That's down 16.83%. And again, getting hit there, but realistically, we're in a situation where I think this is honestly just pulling back to a realm more of normality where it should have been, before all the hype. If you've ever been waiting for an opportunity to get into Rutherford, man, I tell you, the UPX floor has gotten slammed in Rutherford. There are not very many properties in New Jersey. Of course, the Rutherford side of things only bringing about 685 properties to work with as far as people selling them and operating with them and all of that fun stuff. But with that in mind, the previous UPX floor is at $58,000. The current UPX floor is at $45,000. That's down 22.41%. A beautiful pullback on the UPX floor in New Jersey on the Rutherford end. The previous USD floor is at $49.98. The current USD floor is at $46, which is very interesting because that means that the UPX floor is actually lower than the USD floor. Not likely to stay that way very long, but a scenario that we will not likely see happen very frequently. San Francisco is also getting slapped a little bit. This is, again, I mean, this is kind of something that we expected. But looking at the previous UPX floor was at $39,999. The current UPX floor is at $32,500. That's down 18.75%. That doesn't feel very good, but it does make sense. We do have a lot of things going on with meta ventures and all of that fun stuff, but it just isn't enough to sustain it when we've got a huge city launch like LA. The previous USD floor is at $39. The current USD floor is at $30.99, getting slapped 20.54%. This is something that we were talking about last week as well. California being so localized to LA is going to feel the ramifications more than the other places, and well, that's what we're seeing here. A possible nice opportunity as far as a dip perspective is concerned in some high value zones, but it seems like LA was a bit of a sponge, soaked up a lot of cash flow, and people are trying to get some cash flow back ahead of North LA. Santa Clara, California, bringing another pretty spicy dive. This one hurts. We've got the Santa Clara bottom, previous UPX floor at $33,800. The current UPX floor at $26,429. That's down 21.81%. Ouch. Now, Santa Clara, as far as an UPX floor dip area, we've got Levi Stadium. We've got a lot of stuff still in Santa Clara. Honestly, I think it's just a big dive ahead of the LA launch. People trying to gain liquidity for exposure in North LA as well. This could be a phenomenal opportunity, but we'll have to wait and see. The previous USD floor is at $29.50. The current USD floor is at $22. That's down 25.42%. Over back again on the East Coast with Staten Island on New York, we've got the previous UPX floor at $15,000 and the current UPX floor at $14,800, staying super stable over in Staten Island, only down 1.33%. And then we get into some fun. The previous USD floor in Staten Island was $9.90. The current USD floor is $13.93. That is an increase of 40.71%, a monster gainer over in Staten Island on the USD side of things. It seems like all of the buyers picked up Staten Island on the USD side of things because, man alive, that thing went screaming. Now, you will have noticed that I did gloss over Los Angeles, and that's because we're still getting data every single day from LA. We don't even have the unminted properties data yet. We've got North LA around the corner. We don't have collections information. There's a lot of stuff that's still missing from Los Angeles as far as a collections and data perspective analytics are concerned. But from where we stand right now, at least from the numbers that I've been able to find, the base UPEX floor around 8,700 at the moment. There aren't very many properties for USD because, well, there aren't very many people that are going to be able to sell in USD yet in this area for a couple days. Los Angeles, California, so far has minted about 32,179 properties, but again, that number is vastly changing every single day. And until we get more stable info, I don't have a whole lot to work with right now than what I'm able to see. From a personal perspective, looking at what I have been able to do so far this week, obviously looking at the overall total in terms of net, I'm at 2.279. Last week I was at 2.09, so we're up about almost 8%, 7.95%, not too bad there. Properties, we've gone from 96 last week to 121. I wonder where those came from. That's weird. Collections, I haven't changed at all as far as the collections perspective goes. That stays stable at 21, and I'm really just waiting for the LA collections before I make a move there. As far as my sold properties for this week, it's been a very, very quiet week up until we hit LA. And even with LA, I really wasn't able to accomplish much on the flip side of things. And I mean very literally flipping in this case. I did have 2 properties sell outside of California with Illinois and Tennessee, but the rest have all been flips from California. And even with those flips, I was only able to manage to sell about 7 properties this week. It was a little bit slow, but again, all of the inventory that I acquired in Los Angeles, I haven't sold. I'm still holding, and I'm not really looking to do much until collection information is released. Now, what's interesting is, even though last week only had 13 sales, and we were talking about how that last week was a little bit slow, last week's total sales were about 180,000 in terms of the overall UPX sale prices. What's interesting, though, even though this week has had about half of that, the sale prices were at about 147,000. So the sale prices, because of California and the prices and hype and everything being so inflated, you can easily make up for the difference. It's not always about quantity here. All right, that's going to do it for this week in review on the Upland metaverse. I hope you and yours are doing well this weekend and your stacks are as thick as ever. With the South LA portion taken care of and out of the way, in North LA around the corner, there is a ton of stuff still going on in the Upland metaverse. And again, the Los Angeles numbers are incomplete, and they probably will be for a few weeks yet. But everything else across the board, I mean, we definitely had some pullbacks in some sectors, and we also had some really, really nice rips. It's been a super interesting week with a massive drop in LA. I hope you guys had a fantastic minting experience in LA, and hopefully you were able to fill your bags with some of the properties that you were hunting for. Have an amazing rest of your weekend, and we will see you all back on Monday. Thanks for watching.